Welcome back to Plant and Water. Today we're going to continue our fruit for thought. We're talking about the fruit of the Spirit. And we're going to look in Galatians chapter 5. And JJ would like to read that for us.
Sure.
Verse 22.
Galatians 5:22 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, and peace."
Peace. All right.
Peace.
So we've talked about love. We've talked about joy. Now we're on to the concept of peace.
Peace.
All right. So wait. Okay. So love. What fruit was love?
All right.
In this,
So
in our picture,
love was an apple. The joy was grapes.
that's right. Not grapes of wrath.
Not grapes of wrath. It's fruit of the vine.
No, okay, fruit of the vine. I like it.
And then
Good
today's fruit of peace is the pear.
Got to be
Piece of pear.
piece of pear. Pear is peace.
Pear is
I
peace.
like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Though I've made peace with a pear because I really don't like them.
This guy had never had a pear until recently, so he had a piece of a pear. Now that's.
And I'm
train of
peace
thought.
with a pear.
That's right. He's at peace with the fact that he
now.
doesn't like pear. So now you know our train of thought.
There it
It's
is.
a little crazy, a little fruity. Okay, that was too. All right, so we're going to be discussing how is peace the fruit. All right, again, it's the result of something much greater. Being a part of the tree, we discussed how it's really the idea of the tree of life, that through Jesus we are grafted in to that tree, we're grafted into that vine that you just mentioned from John chapter 15. So we abide in Christ. So when we do that, as a result, as a fruit, it is peace. We can be at peace. What does it mean? What does peace really mean? And I think I just have a physical understanding of peace because it's the opposite of war, right? I mean, when war takes place, I was thinking about how I was walking through the park yesterday. Mary and I were walking through Trustful Park. And the big green, there's a little walk bridge that's it's from the 1800s. Mm-hmm. On either end of it, there are these metal posts that are in the ground, and they're to stop you from driving over it. Well, if you look at them, have you ever looked at these big, beautiful metal posts that have got like a ball on the top? In fact, the history to that is when Napoleon laid down his arms. Napoleon Bonaparte was captured. The French were captured. The English took all of their cannons and they flipped them upside down and they placed them on their cobblestone on the sides of their cobblestone streets, and they put the cannonballs on the top to signify that they'd been conquered, that their cannons could no longer be fired. So it showed the idea of peace. So when war is over, they literally have a peace treaty. So peace is the absence of war. You think about peace being it's peace times. We're not in war. So for a Christian, the result of the fruit of the Spirit is peace. Mm-hmm. But if we have the idea that it's the absence of war, then we're going to think, well, then as a Christian, I'll never experience war. As a Christian, everything's going to be a piece of fruit that everything's great. I'm completely taken care of. I get the picture of Eden again. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the wrong picture of the fruit of the Spirit being peace. In fact, we're setting ourselves up for failure if we feel that way, because the moment war comes, wait a minute, I didn't sign on for this. Yeah. I thought the fruit of the Spirit was peace. Therefore, maybe it makes me undermine the Spirit. Is God real? Is the Spirit real? Is this really happening? So this is very important that we discuss this concept today, especially with the craziness going on. You mentioned something about that earlier.
Yeah, it's just, we want to have peace, but our peace is being attacked.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You're the social media, the news is showing war to us, and we want peace. We find peace with our neighbors. Mm-hmm. We find peace with our church, with the church. We find peace with people we socialize with, and so I feel like the peace that we have is being interrupted by what's just being plastered in our face every day.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't want this. I don't want to interrupt someone's peace with my peace.
Yeah. You give them your peace.
Their peace. With my peace of mind. Yeah.
Peace of my mind.
But
gives me peace.
Our peace is being interrupted by their peace.
Yeah.
P-I-E-C.
That's right. P-I-E-C. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, when someone gives you the peace of their mind, it can interrupt our peace. P-E-A-C-E. That's a great point. I'm proud of you. You bringing a pun into this, by the way. Thank you. So what a day.
I'm sorry.
This may be the first time that JJ came up with this. Oh, anyway.
Only happened twice in my life.
So I'm at peace with it. But anyway, I think about, you mentioned your neighbors, and you have a really great relationship with your neighbor Dell.
Oh yeah, Dell's one of my buddies.
Yeah, I've gone over to their house, and we've just sat there and we've talked just right there at the property line, and it's really neat what y'all talk about, how things are going on, and it gives you the perspective. Yeah, I think turning off the TV, turning off the device, and going talking to our neighbor, we're going to gauge how are people really interacting. Mm-hmm. How do we really feel about one another? And that's really what we need to be doing. It's funny. When we lived in Ohio, we bought a house from the 1950s. It was the newest one we could find. The porch, there was a beautiful porch on the front of that house. It was a little 2-bedroom house. It wasn't anything big, but it had, I think the porch was bigger than our living room. And where was it? On the front of the house. Well, across the street was a new, like it used to be a field, and it was just all new houses. Mm-hmm. Where were their porches? On the back of the house. Mm. So we'd sit on the front of the porch, and we would just look at these houses, and not one of our neighbors could be seen because they were on their porch in the backyard. Newer houses have porches on the back, the bigger porch on the back, while older houses had porches on the front. Why? Because everybody talked to everybody. Yeah. They were all interacting with each other. And no air conditioning meant you were on that. You stayed outside most of the time, right? Where did they stay? In the front.
Yeah. You want a good example of that? Just watch Andy Griffith.
Andy Griffith, man.
He sat on their porch.
Picking on the front porch.
Yeah, just sitting there and everybody walked by and said, hey.
That's it, And so you almost see the concept of society. We've moved to the backyard rather than the front. Wow. And so But
we did it for peace, by the way.
For peace, yeah, because, well...
Who wants to talk to their neighbor?
Possibly because we have a fear about what my neighbor feels about me. Mm-hmm. And we have some issues that take place. What does social media do? I no longer look at the car in my neighbor's driveway trying to keep up with the Joneses. I can now see what they've got on their plate on Facebook. And it can promote a lot of that animosity. It can promote greed. I feel, what's the word? I can't even think of it. Jealousy can promote jealousy with my neighbor. We have lost the concept of peace with our fellow man, and we need that today. And we realize that the peace is a result of being in the Spirit. When I focus on the works of the flesh, I will experience war all the time. In fact, I wanted us to talk a little bit about war. And I believe war itself is a fruit. War is a fruit, not of the Spirit. War is a fruit of the flesh, trusting in self. Right? War is a fruit of trusting in myself, maybe my abilities. David understood this. Yeah. In Psalm 20, verses 6 through 8. Would you like to read that?
It says, "Now I know that the Lord saves his anointed. He will answer him from his holy heaven with the saving might of his right hand. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. They collapse and fall, but we rise and stand upright."
What a perspective. He's saying we trust in God, the saving might of his right hand. So I'm going to trust in God's right hand, not my right-hand man, who is the general of my army. I trust in the right hand of God to save me. But then it says some trust in chariots, some in horses. So during this time, a horse generally would have come from Egypt. We still have Arabians. We had an Arabian growing up. They still come from that region. So Egypt was known for its war horses. So when we see this isn't talking about just going on a equestrian ride, through a trail. This is talking about a war horse. If you had a war horse, you had a cavalry at this time, you were a dominant threat because you literally could come down on your infantry army that you're facing. And so this is the height. This is like saying, this is like saying an unmanned drone that can just bomb, someone today. This literally gives you the upper hand. but it's not the height of the upper hand. God's hand is the highest that we need to look to. And so to trust in horses or chariots instead of trusting in the name of the Lord our God, what's the result? Verse 8, they collapse and fall, but we rise and stand upright. So if we trust in the name of the Lord our God, we will rise and we will be able to stand. So David gives us the idea that we can be at peace in the midst of war. It's not peace being the absence of war. It's being at peace while war is going on. So as you mentioned, everything else is crazy going on around us, and we're inundated with things that we've never been dealing with, and it's causing anxiety. It's causing worry. What's going to happen if I don't wear a mask? What's going to happen if I go out? And it leads to this stress. It leads to anxiety. So really, peace is a fruit that is the result of trusting in God. So war is a fruit of trusting in myself. Peace is a fruit of trusting in God.
Right.
So no matter what army encamps against us, we can still must trust in the name of the Lord our God, that we can be at peace while war is around us. And I think one of the greatest passages, I know we've gone to this quite a bit, it's one of my go-tos for my life, Philippians chapter 4. Because we read peace of God twice. So the peace of God is the result that's mentioned here. So the fact that it's a fruit, it is literally defined in verses 6 through 9. But let's go 6 through 7.
All right. Philippians 4, 6 through 7 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus.
So I love it. It says peace of God that goes beyond all understanding will guard your heart. So, it's the idea of, all right, I'm at peace right now. And I don't know why. Because I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be at peace right now because we're at war. There's war going all around us. I mean, you can look and you can see it. You can find something to focus on when it comes to war and turmoil. But if we focus on God, we can be at peace, and it goes beyond my understanding. I don't know why I'm at peace, but I'm at peace. Wow, that's a neat thought. So again, it's not based on what adds up, because 2 + 2 = 4. This is happening, therefore we have war. Well, no, it's 2 + 2 = 5 when it comes to God. Because we can be at peace when everything else is adding up to war around us. And so that's why it goes beyond my understanding. My faith in God goes beyond what adds up around me. Man, He is the one that makes the difference. Yeah. And where does that come from? Notice it says, in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving. It's hard to be thankful when you're anxious. Is that a fair statement? When I am worried about something, what's going to happen to my face? My face is going to be, I'm going to be weighed down. You're going to know, Rich, what's going on? What's wrong? You're going to see it in me. And I'm going to, I guess this. It's affecting me. Well, what Paul is telling us is to give it to God. Supplication is an urgent request to meet a need. Well, I have an urgent request to meet a need when I face anything that would cause anxiety. Wow. We need to stop and pray. Do you stop and pray for our nation? Do you stop and pray for our president? Do you stop and pray for the conflicts that are going on all around us? That's where we stop and recognize, hey, I can still find thanksgivings as I make my requests to God. And if I can be thankful in the midst of a storm, if I can be thankful in the midst of war, that's going to affect my face. That's going to affect my countenance. It's going to change my attitude when it shouldn't be. Generally, if you looked around, I shouldn't be at peace. That's why when I see people smiling, and I'm going, why are you smiling? I want to know more. And maybe when I know someone's situation, and they're really going through something, but they're still smiling, they are an inspiration to me, because they're at peace when I think that I would be not at peace if I'm going through what they're going through. So that's not, yeah.
Even praying to God, you can find the peace. Even you just mentioned praying for our country, praying for our president, and it could go. Even if you don't like our president, and you pray for him, and you pray to God. When you're talking to God, you find the peace after you pray to God about, praying for somebody that needs it, even though if you don't like them.
Right.
You're praying. I could give you a sense of peace.
Right.
Just for praying to God about it.
Yes.
You find the peace in that.
What I love about, and I guess clarifying too about praying for our president, I think it's neat because, maybe not the word, but I can't imagine that position.
Oh, no.
I can't imagine being president. I mean, we were talking about before, I was born in New Zealand. I can't be. Relief. But I could not imagine being in that position. And I think the thing is this, none of us can imagine being in that position, but everybody has their 2 cents to weigh in on it.
Yeah,
well, at the end of the day, who is my ultimate supreme president is God. So I'm going to go to God on behalf of the president, whoever is in office. In fact, we find that in Romans chapter 13. Pray for those who are in high positions. That's a position that's been given by God. So who am I to question it? I'm going to pray to God. He's the one that gives the answers. And so there again, we find peace in the midst of things that we generally wouldn't find peace in.
Let that give you peace that you've prayed for that person.
Yes.
Because God, just like you said, it surpasses all understanding.
Yeah.
And guard your hearts.
Well, and again, I can look at the small amount of time I've been on this earth, and it didn't matter what president, what side, whatever, someone was angry with them. I wouldn't want to be in that position ever. And so that's where they need our prayers. Because for one, they're making decisions that are affecting all of us. And we need to give them our prayers to God. And so again, that's kind of a breakaway from this, but it applies to our daily walk when it comes to being at peace. It comes through prayer. And I think Paul explains to the Romans, I think, the best way that we can pray. Because when I'm anxious, I literally don't know what to pray about. I mean, how could this be fixed? I'm at a loss for words, and that kind of affects your prayer, doesn't it? I mean, if you're at a loss for words and you're trying to pray to God, it almost feels like silence. Well, do you know Paul actually handles that? I mean, so could you read that for us?
Yeah.
Jenny?
Romans 8:26-28. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know what to pray for as we ought. But the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. And he who searches his hearts knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose.
There have been rare occasions in my life where I was in prayer to God, and it brought me to my knees in actual just tears pouring. Right? Those have been rare, but those have been times where I have literally just not known what to say, and groaning has come out. Now that's just when it's, and generally I wouldn't share that because that's between me and God, but there have been times where I just didn't have the words to say. And when we're in agony over someone, when we're in agony over, I remember hearing someone's marriage broke up, and I bawled my eyes out, and I didn't know what to say. We just prayed. We don't know where those words are going to come. It's incredible how the Spirit helps us with groanings too deep for words. Sometimes when you're praying to God, a groan might be the only thing that comes out. But God knows where your heart is. Are you willing to pour yourself out for God? Are you willing to give that to Him? Because for one, holding on to it is only going to cause the anxiety. Anxiety builds anxiety. I mean, it's just going to keep on building. And so God's given us a way to let it out.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, today we had a morning message, had a hose. We've got incredible water pressure here.
Yeah.
I think it's up on the top of the mountain, and we're like it's like hitting us here. And we have busted pressure washers. I mean, our pressure washer can't handle the pressure. That's a lot of pressure. And we've busted 2 hoses, and I was thankful for it because we got a morning message out of it. That thing swelled. That hose that's not supposed to bubbled up and just went, exploded. The idea is pressure is going to get out some way. We can let it out, or it'll find its way out. One is going to be devastating. The other is going to be freeing. That hose, when we let it out, waters the garden. It fulfills its purpose. But when it doesn't and it explodes, it's useless now. Well, it was good for a morning message.
Yeah. Hey. So
Kind of paid for itself. I don't know,
Kind of
because
usage,
that's a spiritual payment. What a great blessing.
Everything around it got watered.
Yeah. So everything else got watered. Yeah. Well, everybody else learned. You know what? I don't want to hold on to pressure like that because I don't want to explode like that. So that did become a valuable lesson for me. So anyway, when we look at this, God doesn't want us to hold on to war, thoughts of war, the turmoil. He doesn't want us to hold on to it. He wants us to give it to Him, and God's strong enough. I actually heard someone say today, sometimes I feel like, and I never thought of this, said, sometimes I feel like when I go to God, He's saying, oh no, not you again.
Ooh.
That was someone said that.
It's tragic.
Well, but for one, I actually gained great encouragement from that because that person is pouring out their heart to God.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been able to even feel that God would be. I don't feel like I've ever gone to Him that much over a specific situation.
Yeah.
But in fact, we're told in Luke 18 that it's the unjust judge. That the woman is looking for justice, and she comes, and he doesn't hear her, but she comes and she comes and she comes and she comes knocking. And it wasn't because he's seeking justice for her, but because of her persistence and incessant knocking, he gave her justice. And it says, how much more will God hear you, saying, he who knocks will receive, will be opened to him, and speedily. So God, He is a just judge and wants to hear your message. He wants you to come running, and He wants you to come and don't feel like you're going to bother Him with your struggles. But if I were to go to someone, if I were to sit there and somebody's door, I'm going to go, all right, I'm coming. That's incessant. Can cause frustration. But God wants you to. He wants you to knock down His door. He wants you to keep coming.
Yeah, that's the human in us, though.
Yeah.
We can't imagine the thoughts of God.
Right. That's why God's God.
That's why God is God.
That's why His right hand.
We would get annoyed by that.
Yes, His right hand's stronger than ours.
He wants us to come to Him.
Yeah, He wants us to.
Fantastic.
That's it.
Fantastic.
So again, as a result of coming to God, you'll find peace. And again, you can even find peace in recognizing verse 28. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good for those who are called according to His purpose. So context here is Paul has a battle between flesh and spirit. That battle is war. So even war, even COVID-19, even situations that we're facing, all things work together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. My purpose is that this is not the new normal. I refuse to say it. But God, your will be done. If this causes someone to turn to you, God be praised. We can find even positives in the midst of this war. And so that can turn our frown upside down. I know that's a trite statement, but it will help us. And so again, it's not just about what we don't think. Don't think about war during the midst of war. Think about things that bring about peace. Don't be anxious, because he says don't be anxious. But it's not just about don't think this. He goes on and says you'll find peace in what you do think about. Do you want to read that, and that'll close us out?
Philippians 4:8-9 says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you.
Wow. So the God of peace will be with you if you think about these things. So what are these things? And you know, we don't have theme music as we go throughout the day. We don't have theme music as we're talking here. But I almost get this, whatever is true, honorable, just, pure, lovely. I get this music in my ear when I think about that. It's like this, you know, you can almost, if someone is thinking about these things while war is going on around them, you see someone, it's just, they're not even being touched by the turmoil going around them. You almost see them floating. You just see you see this as they're going through. You know, that's that idea. The God of peace will be with you. You're not alone. You're not alone in the midst of what you're going through. So the fruit of the Spirit is peace. Remember, it's not a pear in a bowl. It's a pear. It's the idea of a fruit that's connected to the tree. You're not alone because you're connected to God. God is with you. So the peace of God will guard your heart, but the God of peace will be with you if you're not anxious and you're focused on the things that are true. Anxiety is always going to lead me to, what if this happens? What if this happens? And have you ever come up with scenarios to just prepare your heart for the worst case scenario? Has that worst case scenario ever happened? Has that worst case scenario ever happened? If I'm honest with myself, the worst case scenario has never taken place. But I've always imagined that it will. But I'm like trying to guard myself so that I'm ready if it does. And it never does. What does it do? It doesn't guard my heart. It's attacking my heart. It's destroying my heart. But notice it says that the God of peace will guard your heart. So don't focus on trying to talk about the worst case scenario. Do you know what that is? That's just a fancy way of saying a lie. A lie. A lie cannot protect you. God will.
Fantastic.
Man.
That's a good idea.
That's it. So let's try to make sure we don't come up with the worst case scenarios to guard our heart. Let's say, you know what, God, you know the outcome to this situation, and I'm giving it to you.
And it's easy to find those worst case scenarios by following social media.
Oh, yes.
You can go all day and look at social media and just figure out your worst case scenario on all of it. There's nothing positive. There's some positive that comes out of social media. Happy birthday to whoever's birthday it is today.
Yeah.
That's great.
And that's why we're doing like the Be Kind videos every morning.
Yeah, you find those on Facebook.
Trying to do positive
things.
Yeah,
there's some positive things in that. But there's also positive things in the world that you can see by talking to your neighbor.
Yeah.
By talking to your church. Here's another positive that gets me excited. And I don't know why it does. It just does. So, come to church. And we're kind of scattered out. We've got online services, and we're not seeing everybody on Sunday mornings at 9 or 10:30. And we know other people worship from home. But I look at our contribution. It's up. I find the positive in that. That gives me peace with what's going on. Our Mission Sunday just went by.
Yeah.
And the contribution just from that week, we almost met our budget for it.
Almost met the budget. I mean,
that's like at
$92,000.
And our budget was $94,000. That puts a peace in me that people are caring or loving or wanting things to go right. It's not being slammed as a negative. That's a huge positive. That's a peace.
You're right. There's positives to focus on. And for those of y'all who don't know the works that we're a part of, that means that the mission works, the missionaries that we have 9 that we're trying to help, all of them can continue to have support. Now, we were in the mission field having to have support. We had 10 congregations supporting us when we were in Scotland. And then when we were doing stateside work in Kentucky, we lost 2 congregations while we were there. Well, that meant we lost monthly support. And as a missionary trying to do that, that's a very challenging situation because you're going, where am I going to meet this bill? Where am I going to be able to? And it distracts you from what you need to do.
Yeah.
What we just did, what our members have done, has meant they can continue to focus on the work, and that is a blessing. And so you're right. There's way positives.
But that's also putting your trust in God and knowing what's going to happen. And the church here at Deerfoot has done that.
Yes.
And, whether we're not here or, COVID's taking place, our trust is still in God, and our members are liberal for that in their giving.
Yeah.
And it shows that shows your trust in God and the peace that you're getting from God, and the peace that you have with your church family,
right,
and your neighbors and things like that.
And I think it shows great. People are away not because they want to be. We've got to stop thinking, well, people they want to be with the saints. I see the opposite. I see people are longing to be back, and we long for you to be back with us. And because we need, there's a reason God gave us the vine. We have to be abiding in it. But that means we're connected to those who are connected. Yeah. And so we can be at peace in that we're longing to be with the saints. And so we can find peace, but we can sure find war. But it's up to us today to choose to grab hold of the fruit of peace. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts?
No, that's a good lesson in peace.
Yeah.
Finding peace now.
Right.
It's good to talk about.
Yeah. It's a piece of heaven.
Yeah, a piece of heaven. Yeah. Well, I'm fixing to find a piece of heaven next week at the beach.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Just a piece of heaven, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great lesson. If you have any questions about love, joy, peace, we're going to continue our fruits of the Spirit throughout the weeks coming. But
so be patient with us.
Yeah, be patient,
because that's next.
You can reach out to us at richard@deerfootcoc.com. We'd love to have your comments or questions about any of these, and we can talk about them on our next show. So we are thankful you tuned in. Peace out.
Have a great day.
God bless.
Peace out.